welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, along with my partner in crime, the man, the legend, Chris King. Chris, how you doing today?
Good, Jim. How are you?
What is the story of the day? And that, of course, is Brian Flores' big lawsuit against the National Football League. And there's likely some truth to the matter. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, whether or not, where that puts Brian in his quest to be an NFL head coach, you and I talked about is probably another thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's obviously going to put him in an awkward situation. When you turn around, you sue the league and several teams involved. I get the fact that he was aggravated. I don't think that the Giants were going to hire Brian Daboll before he interviewed. And I mean, he wasn't in there in that interview session as a token guy because they had already interviewed Leslie Frazier and Patrick Graham. So they had satisfied the Rooney rule even before he showed up.
Right.
I think the reason why Daboll got the job is because he was tied to Joe Schoen, who also was the assistant GM in Buffalo under Brandon Beane.
Right.
That doesn't mean that Flores wouldn't get a job somewhere else, but I think that he kind of put himself behind the 8 ball now with all this. Whether as for Stephen Ross and the allegations he made against him, I don't know what that's going to do as far as the Dolphins ownership if that comes out to be verified. Could that lead to Roger Goodell deciding that Miami has to be put up for sale, much like Jerry Richardson?
Well, it could be like the Donald Sterling thing, too, in the NBA with the Clippers. The league is really protective of the shield, right? And what's more important is actually something we do today, right? And that is we are putting together a show based on the concept that coaches and players want to win basketball games, football games, and baseball games, and soccer matches, and anything that we may talk about here on this particular show. If the concept is that, Stephen Ross and or the Miami Dolphins or any team in any league or any sport wishes to lose games, okay, that affects exactly what we're doing because we're predicting, hey, the Dolphins have been playing fantastic. Why don't you bet your good hard-earned money on them? And they're tanking.
Right.
So those sort of things are they're hard to prove, but if I don't believe. Look, Brian Flores is not stupid. Okay. You do not sue your potential employer, not just your employer, but the company that basically runs the show, if you don't have something. I think that case against the league and specifically against what the Dolphins, the allegations made against the Dolphins, that's probably the one that is the most interesting from a legal standpoint. And the one having to do with the Giants, as you said, you can explain it. You're telling me. Let's talk a little bit about your theory of the case on how the Giants came to hire their coach.
Well, like I said, Joe Schoen was the assistant general manager in Buffalo the last 4 years under Brandon Beane. Daboll was there, and as soon as Schoen got the job, everybody thought that Daboll was going to be the front runner there. But they also, like I said, they interviewed Leslie Frazier from Buffalo. They interviewed Patrick Graham. So it's not as if Flores was one of the 2 guys they had to interview for satisfy the Rooney rule, which I know everybody has had their issues with over the years because it doesn't. People have pointed and say that it doesn't work or this or that it's a token interview. But in that case, Flores would have been the 3rd minority guy the Giants interviewed, but they were going after Daboll, I think, all along. Flores did get 2 interviews. It's not like they just interviewed him for 5 seconds and kicked him out the door. Mm-hmm. But, Schoen wanted to go with somebody that he's familiar with. And, Daboll has, also taken offensive line coach Bobby Johnson from the Bills. So it's basically Buffalo East when you get right down to it over there. Sure. Whether it pans out or not, I mean, there's a big drop-off in talent from what you have in Orchard Park to what you have in East Rutherford.
You think? Yeah.
So I don't know if Flores has any ground there. I don't know about how things went with the interviews with the Broncos, and is the Bears the other team that he's suing?
I don't think the Bears are in there. I think it's just the Giants and the Broncos.
Oh, I thought they had.
Now, I think he's got a pretty. I think he's got a pretty good case against the Broncos because basically the guy was hired before, before he actually showed up. So that one probably was a little bit in the way of disingenuous. But look, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on on TV. But I think this case is going to have some really, really interesting ramifications and how it plays out for Brian, who's only 40 years old. I mean, which I guess is old now in the coaching situation, given that we have Kyle and we got the two youngest coaches in the National Football League are now in the Super Bowl against each other. So that's a pretty interesting situation. So Brian's only 40 years old. My hope is that he will get a head coaching job, and we'll see how the league does. They're very protective of the Shield, so we'll see how that works out. And of course, now Washington actually has a football team, has a name. It's the Commanders.
And, I was still hoping they were going to be the Washington Sentinels because I wanted to see Shane Falco and Nigel Gruff and all those guys come out for the opening game of the season. But
yeah,
what can you do? I guess they're going to be the Commanders, and everybody will have to deal with that. It could be worse, I guess.
Well, the funny thing was in that regard, was that on Tuesday night, of course, today is the day that they have been circled it for 2 months. They've been promoting and saying, this is it. This is the day, blah, blah, it's going to be changed. And last night on Sirius XM radio, Joe Theismann goes on and says, well, they're going to be called the Commanders. And, and basically blew the entire, all of that hype from, them not saying who the name of the team is. Joe accidentally said the quiet part out loud and and outed them. So, whatever. I do think the uniforms and the helmet and all that looks pretty cool. So we'll see. But, it is the Commanders. So no longer will you have to look up and see Washington football team. It actually has a name now. They are the Commanders. And going forward, that's the way it's going to be. So there you go. A couple of interesting footnotes there on headlines for the day. And before we get started, let's talk about something really cool. We have a new offer, and that new offer is for Winners and Whiners viewers only at Sportsbook app at Caesars Rewards, okay? Now, the deal is, the new offer is we'll match the first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and using that promo code that you see right there. All the information, by the way, is in the show box below. Now, again, this is a new mobile offer to Winners and Whiners viewers only from the Sportsbook app at Caesars. Download it, and it's the only one that you're going to get Caesars rewards, and there's tons of fantastic rewards they give you, okay? So the cool thing about it is download it, make your first bet, and they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 in their in your sports app there on Caesars. Now, we also have a cool deal, and that one is coming from BetMGM. Now, Winners and Whiners fans can get a risk-free first bet of up to $1,000 for any new customer. You must deposit at least $10 at the start. Now, you can go and try the BetMGM app, which we highly recommend that you do. You must use the special code, and the special bonus code is in the show box below, but it's Video Winners. And you must be 21 years of age or older, and it's available in Arizona, New Jersey, New York, Indiana, Colorado, Tennessee, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the District of Columbia, and Wyoming. And one last one, and that is in the state of Louisiana. We have a cool deal going on there, another new mobile app, and that one is Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers. If you are in the state of Louisiana and you go and you get the Bet Rivers app and you make a deposit there and make your first bet from Bet Rivers, they are going to be there to give you up to $250. Okay, so there you go. So there's all the different things going on, and we hope that that you enjoy it. Remember that you have to be 21 years of age or older, and always bet responsibly whenever you are involving yourself in gambling. Okay, all right, cool. So there we go, folks. I think we got everybody out there. So we got Caesars, okay, we got MGM, and we got Bet Rivers. How much more could you possibly want? Winners and Whiners people are getting all kinds of deals. Please take advantage. Okay? All right, cool. So let's go to the hardwood. And we're going to start in the national collegiate aspect of it. And we'll go college. And where are we going first there, Christopher?
Well, we're going to go to Indiana State as the Sycamores host Drake in a Missouri Valley Conference matchup. Drake 16-6 coming into this one. Indiana State 9-11. The Sycamores have dropped 5 of their last 6 coming into this game. Meanwhile, Drake coming in off a big win over Loyola of Chicago over the weekend in a game where they won and covered the line. That was a big win for them. Hopefully, Damian DeVries' team doesn't rest on the laurels of that victory here. Indiana State 7-2 at home, but Drake is 5-1 on the road. On top of that, the Bulldogs are 86th in scoring offense at 75.4 points a game. They're 95th in field goal percentage. They're 61st in three-point shooting. Indiana State's below average on the defensive end of the floor. That's been their problem for years. They're 218th in scoring defense at 70.3 points per game. They're 170th in field goal percentage defense, 201st in three-point defense. So look for the Bulldogs to shoot from the outside against Indiana State here. Drake 16-6 in their last 22 following an ATS win. Indiana State just 1-3-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall. They're also 1-3-1 in their last 5 at home against teams with a road winning percentage better than 600, and 1-3-1 in their last 5 at home against teams with a winning road record. Now, granted, I know everybody points out how Drake has won 3 of their last 4 road games by a single point. But when you're facing an Indiana State team that's lost 5 out of 6, you have to think that Drake can play a little bit better than what we've seen them play on the road of late and come up with a road victory in Missouri Valley Conference play to keep pressure on none other than, like we said, Loyola, Chicago, and Missouri State. The MVC is a pretty tough conference this year. 7-2 is not going to get it done necessarily in conference play, because you look, Loyola, Chicago 7-2, Missouri State is 7-3, Northern Iowa is 7-3, Bradley is only a game back at 6-4. So you've got 5 teams that are clustered right up there in the middle or the top of the Missouri Valley. It's going to be an interesting second half of the conference season for all those teams as they try to make a run to get that automatic bid for March Madness.
Absolutely. And, we don't know, although it has had Missouri Valley has been lucky in so much as over the years they've been able to sneak a couple of 2-bid opportunities in there. But, you never know. And that's why I think it's so important as we bring it out on a number of occasions, especially some mid-majors, that you win your conference tournament, because otherwise you might be looking as the odd person out on that situation. So
exactly.
From Drake and Indiana State, we head on to Chattanooga. Now, we've seen Chattanooga more than a few times in Samford. For those of you who don't know, he's in Alabama. So the Mocs and the Bulldogs get together tonight. Where are they going to play tonight, Chris?
They are playing at Samford in the SoCon. Chattanooga leads the SoCon with an 8-1 record, a half game ahead of Furman, who is 8-2. They'll play the Citadel tonight, just for those of you that are wondering. Samford, they're 13-8, but they're just 3-6 in the SoCon, putting them down near the bottom of the standings with the Citadel and Western Carolina. The Mocs are 18-4 overall on the year. Samford's 13-8, but like we just said, they're struggling in conference play. Samford's 7-2 at home, but the Mocs are a good road team. They're 9-3 as the visitors on the season. Chattanooga 67th in scoring offense. Jim 76.3 points a game. They're 38th in field goal percentage, shooting better than 47%. They shoot 54.5% from inside the arc, and they're 67th in three-point shooting. And one of the key things that we always talk about when we talk about a lot of teams where mid-majors seem to have more success than power conference teams, free throw shooting. They're 38th in the country at 75.8%. So they're not leaving points on the floor. Samford, meanwhile, struggles on the defensive end. They're 299th in scoring defense, giving up 73.8 points a game. They're 284th in field goal percentage defense, 324th in two-point defense as opposing teams shoot 52.9%. They're 247th in three-point defense. Chattanooga is 6-2 in their last 8 after a straight-up win. Samford 8-23-1 in their last 32 as a home underdog. And Samford also 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 at home against teams with a winning road record. You know, the Mocs, like you said, we've seen them before. They've done us some favors so far. They've won 5 in a row coming into this one. They own a 2-point win over Furman at home. So that matchup next Saturday, right down here in Greenville, will be an interesting one to determine who's going to end up atop the SoCon at the end of the season, probably. Lamont Paris has done a great job with the Mocs. I look for them to get their 19th win of the season in this one.
You know, this is definitely going to be a one-bid conference. Okay, we know that, unfortunately for them, and so that means that that Chattanooga looks good at this point, and in a one-bid conference, that's the funny thing is you never know. I mean, it could happen where you turn out and the one bid is the team that, for all intents and purposes, ends up being the one team in the league that we've seen happen time and time again, where they come in and they go, okay, cool, you're here, but oh, by the way, you're not playing well, and so an 8-8 team ends up winning the tournament and goes in. But most of these guys are going to be 16 seeds if they make it at all.
Yeah, don't sleep on if that's going to be the case where it's a team that comes out of nowhere. Don't sleep on Wofford. I mean, the Terriers have been there before. They're 5-6 in the conference right now, but you can never count them out.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go from college basketball, and we're going to head.
Do you want to answer the question ones first, Jim, or do you want
sure.
to? Okay.
Let me get out of the way while we.
Oh no, that's not your fault. We've got James asked us about Purdue, who plays Minnesota tonight. Now, I know that we've had problems with Purdue because when we tell you that Purdue's going to win, they always inevitably find a way to screw it up. They're playing at Minnesota at the Williams Arena tonight. Purdue has won 6 of their last 7. Their lone loss in that stretch, a 3-point defeat at Indiana. Meanwhile, they're going to face a Minnesota team that has not been as all that great of late. The Golden Gophers, they started the year 10-1. They've lost 6 of their last 7. Their only win in that stretch, a 3-point home victory over Rutgers, January 22nd. In that stretch, they lost to Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State, Iowa, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. So you basically lost to the good teams in the Big Ten. Unfortunately for Minnesota, they're playing another good team in the Big Ten. And the big issue for the Golden Gophers has been one that's been them all season, and that's rebounding. They're 354th in offensive rebounding percentage. Meanwhile, they're facing a Purdue team that is 6th at 37.2%. They're also second in effective field goal percentage at 58.9%, third in three-point shooting. I know Ben Johnson's team started off well. They beat Princeton on a neutral floor. They beat Mississippi State on the road. They beat Pitt. They beat Michigan on the road. But the wheels have come off, and there's not a ton of depth in that lineup and that rotation for Minnesota. Plus, you look, Minnesota's tallest player that sees any kind of minutes is Charlie Daniels or Eric Curry, who are both 6'9". Meanwhile, let's take a look at Purdue, who runs a guy who's 7'4" and 295 pounds in the paint. Plus, you've got Trevion Williams, who's 6'10" and 255. That doesn't bode well. We talked about this when Minnesota played Illinois with Kofi Cockburn knocking people around. Zach Edey should have a field day. He's shooting 70.8% from the floor on the season. He should have a big game there, and so should Williams. Purdue will get the win in that contest. As for the game everybody's really excited about for some reason in the Big South, it's Jim, your favorite mascot of all time. That's right. It's the Campbell Fighting Camels on the road as they face the Presbyterian Blue Hose in the battle of teams that people wonder who came up with these mascots. Campbell comes in 12-7. They're 5-3 in the Big South. Presbyterian comes in 9-13.
The names
9-13 and 1-6. Now, the interesting thing about Presbyterian is they're 1-4 in their last 5 games, but none of those games were decided by more than 3 points. So Presbyterian struggles in in close game situations. They lost by 3 to Gardner-Webb. They lost by 2 to Winthrop. They lost by 1 to Longwood. They beat Charleston Southern by 1, and they lost to UNC Asheville by 1 in their last game. The problem for Presbyterian, they struggle when it comes to shooting the ball or stopping the other team from shooting. Just to give you an example, they're 343rd in effective field goal percentage at 44.2%. They're 355th three-point shooting. Defensively, they're 340th in effective field goal percentage defense. They're 347th in three-point defense. And they're 344th by giving up free throw attempts this season. Meanwhile, Campbell, this is going to be one of those games where they slow it down. Neither team scores a ton, but that's because they both go at a snail's pace. Campbell 355th in tempo, Presbyterian 342nd. But the Camels are 41st in effective field goal percentage at 53.7%. They shoot 54.4% from inside the arc. They're good defensively, which is something that you can't really say about Presbyterian. Mm-hmm. Campbell's a 3.5-point favorite. Look for them to cover on the road against the Blue Hose. Finally, Vermont and New Jersey, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. How many times have we talked about Vermont, where we say teams come to Vermont, they go to Burlington, they get some maple syrup, they get their butts kicked, they go home, they eat pancakes.
Right.
We're looking at a Vermont team that's won 10 in a row. They're 8-0 in the America East. They finally scored less than 80 points in a conference game in that win over Albany on Monday night. It's the first time all season in their 8 conference games they were held under 80. You're looking at a New Jersey team that has lost 6 in a row. Vermont already beat them by 26 at the New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark. The Highlanders are in trouble here. I don't see John Becker's team letting up at all. The game that they're looking for down the stretch will be a game on February 16th, so 2 weeks from now when they face Massachusetts Lowell. But by then, they should have the America East locked up. Take Vermont, give the points. The Catamounts run their win streak to 11 and win at home. I feel bad for Brian Kennedy, but hey, you're the one that chose to go to the New Jersey Institute of Technology to be a coach.
A fine school, I'm sure, but pancakes for everybody when you play Vermont. There's no question about it. That's just the way it's going to be, folks. Let's go to the ice. Do we have any more questions before we want to go over there?
No, I think that's all the college games that we were asking.
All right, folks, cue up your hockey questions. Here we go.
Yeah, last day before the All-Star break in hockey. You get the Islanders at home against the Kraken. This game was supposed to have been Saturday night, but everybody knows that snowstorm that went through the Northeast. The Islanders minus 190 in this one. The Kraken 14-27-4. The Islanders are at 500 on the year at 16-16-6. They're 9-9-3 at home. The Kraken 5-13-2 on the road. Kraken also coming in off a 3-2 loss last night in Boston, so they're playing the second game of a back-to-back here. Philippe Grubauer 11-17-4 with a 320 goals against and an 885 save percentage in net for Seattle. It'll be Semyon Varlamov 381, 261 goals against and 915 save percentage for the Islanders. This comes basically down to defense. We know that both teams have issues scoring, but the Islanders are 5th in goals against. The Kraken are 28th, giving up 3.51 goals a night. Seattle's 1-6 in their last 7 on the road. They're 0-4 in the second game of their last 4 back-to-backs. They're 0-4 on Wednesday. The Islanders 4-0 in their last 4 after scoring 2 goals or less. And they're 10-1 in their last 11 as a favorite. Look for the Islanders to get the win at home for Barry Trotz as they actually go over 500 at home on the season. I mean, they're way behind in the Metropolitan Division. They're 21 points behind the Caps, but they've got a staggering 8 games in hand at this point because of all the games they lost due to COVID issues. Look for the Islanders to head into the All-Star break on a positive note as they take advantage of the tired expansion Kraken in this one.
Yeah. Speaking of the Caps, Grubauer and Semyon Varlamov were both teammates on the Caps at one point in their career. So there seems to be former Capitals goalkeepers all over the NHL at this point.
Yeah, look at Braden Holtby.
Yeah, Holtby, the whole gang. So, you could have – there's 3 or 4 of them at least. So, from the island where it's not as snowy tonight, where do we go from there, boss?
We're going to go to Washington.
Ah, okay.
The Edmonton Oilers are on the road to face the Capitals. The Oilers 22-16-3. They're coming off that disappointing 3-2 shootout loss to Ottawa the other day. Capitals 25-12-9. Of course, they played Pittsburgh last night. Now, Jim, I don't know if you saw the game. Vitek Vanacek started and then left in the first period with an upper body injury.
Right.
I'm guessing he's not playing tonight. The reports say it's going to be Ilya Samsonov in the net for Washington.
Yeah. Those upper body things, I have a feeling they're figuring, all right, let's just make it to the All-Star break, get him some rest, and see where we can go from there. So I think this is one of those error on the error in the side of caution as opposed to taking a chance on getting somebody hurt.
That's understandable. But so it'll be Samsonov. He's 14-5-3 with a 276 goals against, a 906 save percentage, and 3 shutouts against Mikko Koskinen, 15-8-2 with a 316 goals against and a 900 save percentage. Of course, watch out because the Oilers might flip to Stuart Skinner. You never know. It's Edmonton. The Capitals 9th in goals against. The Oilers are 23rd. Both teams can obviously score. We know the weapons that each team has. It'd be always interesting to see McDavid, Draisaitl, and Ovechkin on the ice at the same time, just to see who tries to shoot the puck the most. Edmonton is 4-0-1 in their last 5 overall. Washington 1-4 in their last 5 after a victory. They're 0-4 in their last 4 when their opponent scores 2 or less. And they're 0-4 in their last 4 against Pacific Division teams. The Oilers, they had yesterday off. Meanwhile, like we said, Washington had to deal with a tough Penguins team. And playing the second game of back-to-back and having to throw Samsonov in there after Vanacek went down yesterday. I like the Oilers to sneak one out here to head into the break on a positive note. Washington doesn't necessarily need it.
It's you bring up a really cool point, and that is that Connor McDavid and getting to see Ovi is going to be fun because I think we should probably have a prop bet on how many broken sticks are going to be tonight because when those guys start wailing at the at the puck, there's a lot of times that you see that they'll go over and the first thing they'll do when they cross over the dasher board is toss a stick and grab another one. So it's going to be good. But, one of the things that makes me enjoy watching Connor McDavid play is he is so fast. I mean, that guy is just amazingly quick. And the way he can, keep the puck basically on the edge of the stick as he flies down the ice is a lot of fun to see.
And he'll be part of the fastest skater competition at All-Star Weekend. So
yeah, a lot of fun. All right, well, we're going to go from the NHL to the association. And
James is already telling people to hit the thumbs up.
Yes. James, thank you for reminding me. James is here as our associate producer from there. James, thanks. Hey, hit the like button, really. We're likable people. We come here, we give you information every day. We're here to serve you. So please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and James, thanks for the reminder. As always, my friend, greatly appreciate it. So we're headed to the association where there's some decent games tonight.
Yeah, and like Joaquin said earlier, a lot of late scratches for players has messed up a lot of betting cards because you see teams taking guys out all of a sudden. It'll be
Yeah, that happened
we
last
saw
night.
that happen the other night. Look at Golden State last night. They took out Curry. They didn't play Thompson. They didn't play Iguodala. They didn't play Green. They didn't play Otto Porter. Obviously made a giant mess of things, and they still beat San Antonio. So what does that tell you?
A lot about more about San Antonio than it does about the Warriors.
Right. But in this one, we've got the Knicks and the Grizzlies coming in from Madison Square Garden. Of course, the Grizzlies coming off that overtime loss to Philadelphia the other night. The Knicks are the Knicks. That's all we really need to say about that. The Knicks are 24-27 this season. Meanwhile, Memphis atop the Southwest Division at 35-18. We're talking about a Knicks team that's just 13-14 at home. The Grizzlies 16-9 at home. The Grizzlies fourth in scoring offense on the season at 112.1 points a game. They're 16th in field goal percentage, and they lead the league in rebounding, which is a big thing because it's always good to get second chance points. The Knicks 27th in scoring offense, 27th in field goal percentage. They can shoot the three somewhat, but that just means you're not shooting well from two if you're only shooting 43.7% from the floor.
This is true.
Is 5-0 in their last five after an ATS loss. They're 4-0 in their last four after a straight-up loss. The Knicks 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 at home against teams with a winning road record, and they're 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 at home against teams with a road winning percentage greater than 600. Quick look at the injury report. Obviously, Dillon Brooks still out with that ankle sprain for Memphis. He'll be out until probably after the All-Star break. Steven Adams is questionable tonight with an ankle sprain. For the Knicks, Derrick Rose still out after having ankle surgery. That's it for them on the injury front. So they'll have all those guys that nobody cares about. Nerlens Noel, we're looking at you, the big void in the middle for the Knicks that does nothing but take up space and collect a paycheck.
And not in a good way.
Right. Kemba Walker should be out there if Thibodeau decides that he can be in the rotation. But in the end, Memphis, it's tough to deal with Ja Morant. We've seen him tons of points. And the Grizzlies get the win here because the Knicks can't score.
Real quick, it seems like from our fans section over the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of it's very pro Grizzly. I mean, we got a lot of Memphis fans there. So, they're definitely some Grizzly fans in the house, so we greatly appreciate seeing them. Not a lot of Knicks fans in the house, so not a lot of Knicks fans in New York at this point. But anyway, what are you going to do?
That's true.
All right, from the Grizzlies and the Knicks, we head on to
Cleveland and Houston, because why not?
Because somebody has to.
Right, the Cavaliers 31-20, the Rockets 14-36. Houston's just 7-16 at home. Cleveland 15-11 on the road. And this is going to be a clash of styles. Cleveland leads the league in scoring defense at 102.2 points a game. They're fifth in field goal percentage defense. They're sixth in three-point defense. Meanwhile, flip the script. The Rockets are dead last in scoring defense. 116.9 points a game allowed. They're 29th in field goal percentage defense. They're 17th in three-point defense, but other than that, they're great. I'm sure they pride themselves on their defense in the layup line drill or the free throw drill. Right. Cleveland 9-3 in their last 12 on Wednesday. Houston 3-12 against the spread in their last 15 after a straight-up loss. They're 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 against teams with a winning record, and they're 0-4 in their last 4 at home against teams with a winning road record. The injury report shows Darius Garland won't play for Cleveland again tonight. He's out with a sore back. Lauri Markkanen out with an ankle sprain. And, of course, Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton have been out for the year. For the Rockets, Trevelyan Queen is down with the G League, so is Daishan Nix. And everybody's favorite basketball player, Usman Garuba, is out after wrist surgery for the Rockets. I know everybody's disappointed that Usman Garuba won't be in the lineup for Houston just because they can probably get a bunch of points trying to spell that in Scrabble.
Right.
Of course,
They
John,
can get more points. They're going to get more points for that in Scrabble than Houston's going to get on the Cavaliers today.
right. So I'm surprised the line's only 5.5 in all honesty, because like you said, it's tough to score on Cleveland, and Houston can't stop anybody. I don't think Houston can stop a local YMCA team.
No, I thought you were going to say Presbyterian, but okay.
Well, yeah, they probably can't stop them either.
That's right. Hey, before we move on to two for the money, let's go back and talk about now look, get your phones out, folks, okay? Because if you don't have these apps, we're going to want you to download them either from the App Store or from the Google Play Store. Now, my apologies first, because at the last minute, we had a little computer situation. So I'm going to have to read this stuff for you. But all of the information is in the show box below. Let's begin with our buddies at Caesars. Now, Caesars has a cool deal for those of us here at Winners and Whiners and those of you out there. So as I said before, have your phone ready, because this is a mobile offer only. So Winners and Whiners viewers from Caesars is going to get this deal. Now, here's the deal Caesars is going to do, and it's only going to be on the app. So remember, it's going to be on the phone. All right. So here's the deal. The deal is they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500. Okay, up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and use the promo code, which you'll see right there as it scrolls in front of your face. And if you can't see it there, don't worry about it. It's in the show box below. And we hope that you can. There it is. There it is. Windsor. Okay. See, there it goes by us. All right. So it's in the show box below, and it's scrolling right past you. Again, now this is for mobile use only. You have to be a first-time bettor. And what you're going to get from Caesars, one of the great sports books out there, is they're going to match your first deposit on, that bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and use the promo code. Okay, so that's what's going on with our buddies at Caesars. Now, over at MGM, and excuse me as I turn to read this, over at MGM, new mobile offers for Winners and Whiners is that you get from BetMGM, Winners and Whiners fans will get a risk-free first bet up to $1,000 for new customers, but you have to deposit at least $10. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal. So what you're getting up to $1,000 on that first bet that they're going to match for you, but only if you deposit that $10, and also if you use the promo code VIDEOWINNERS, which of course, as I said before, is in the show box below. So that's one for an app for Caesars Sportsbook, an app for BetMGM, and last but not least, if you happen to be down in the great state of Louisiana, what you're going to want to do is go to Bet Rivers, download their app, and they're giving away up to $250 in matching bets whenever you do your first bet on Bet Rivers down there in the fine state of Louisiana. So 3 different partners we have here, 3 different great deals that they're giving you. All the information's in the show box below. Check out, of course, Caesars Sportsbook. Check out BetMGM. And if you're down in the state of Louisiana, by all means, have some great Cajun food, first and foremost. But don't forget to download and use that Bet Rivers, okay? All right. Thank you all very much. Thanks to all 3 of our fine sponsors for joining us and being part of the family here at Winners and Whiners. And we hope that all of you take advantage of it. Remember, you must be 21 years of age or older to participate. And as we've always said, both here at Winners and Whiners and of course, bet responsibly. All right, cool. All right. So it's time for 2 for the money. And here we go.
Yeah, like we said, the Islanders over the Kraken. Obviously, Seattle playing the second game of back-to-back. They haven't had any luck in those situations. And the Islanders, they started off slowly at home this season, but they've turned things around now. They figured out the building. I look for the Islanders to prevail there. We just talked about Memphis and the Knicks. You can't trust New York to do much of anything other than, have guys like Julius Randle, snap on the crowd and his teammates and everything else. Matthew asked about the Wild money line. I actually like them tonight on the road over the Blackhawks. The Wild have played some good hockey, and they're right in the thick of that Central Division race with Colorado and Nashville. The Blackhawks, they had a good stretch for a little bit. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They lost to Colorado, and then they fell to Vancouver the other night. Minnesota, they're a dangerous offensive team. You have to think that the Wild can get the victory there to head into the All-Star break on a positive note. And finally, Xavier playing at home over Butler. I know 11 points seems like a lot. I just don't trust Butler's offense because they don't have any. Meanwhile, you're looking at a Xavier team that's got some pretty good talent there. They're 15-5. They bounced back from losing to Marquette and Providence by going on the road to beat Creighton. And we know that Creighton has played some pretty good basketball themselves. They just beat UConn last night on the road in Stores. So that was a big win for them. Meanwhile, Butler, what can we say about the Bulldogs? It hasn't already been said. Yeah, Lavelle Jordan, you beat Georgetown on Saturday by 3. They don't score a ton. They don't do a ton offensively. They haven't had much success on the road. Their big signature road win, and I'm not counting Georgetown when they beat them in Georgetown, was an overtime win against Oklahoma back in early December. Meanwhile, their 3 conference road games, they were blown out by 40 by Villanova. They also lost to Connecticut by 17 and Providence by 7. I don't see them giving Xavier much of a game here.
Okay, let's go from 2 for the money, 4 for the show.
Right. Like we just said, Cleveland, -5. It's actually down to 5. I put 5.5 before, but I checked. It went down to 5. Over the Rockets, we said Houston's the worst team in the league in scoring defense. Cleveland is the best. Houston can't score anyway. They're one of the most inefficient offenses in the league. The Cavaliers should have little problem there. For our good buddy Pete Medhurst, Navy going on the road, they're going to face Lehigh. I like the midshipmen -6. They bounced back from that horrible loss where they blew a 27-point second-half lead to Army. They've won 2 in a row. Coming into this one, they beat Bucknell. They beat American. They'll take down Lehigh here and avenge the loss they had.
And Pete Medhurst will be on the call of that game for those of you who want to check it out on TuneIn. It's on WBAL radio, which you can find on TuneIn. And so you'll get a chance to listen to the midshipmen taking on the Mountain. And of course, we talked already about Edmonton and that game against the Caps tonight. And
Right.
Your buddies at the Rhode Island Rams, they play the Rams and the Rams. Now, one thing we know tonight, the Rams are going to win.
Right. The Rams are gonna win in Queens.
That's right.
It might be the Bronx. I always get confused where Fordham is because
Fordham's closer to the Bronx than to the
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So we're going to take the Rams in the Battle of Rhode Island and Fordham in the Atlantic 10. Look for Jared Roden and company to get the victory there. To pick up a road victory, go to 13-7 on the season.
Okay, it's menu time. We got plenty of fun stuff on the menu tonight, and we've already said that Vermont's going to do well because the folks down in New Jersey are going to take home a case of maple syrup to go with them. Now, you had talked about UMass Lowell. Now, they're playing the Maine Black Bears. That could be an important game, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely important for Lowell or for Massachusetts Lowell. I mean,
Right.
They're coming off back-to-back losses. They need a win here to put some pressure on everybody else. And Maine is not a good basketball team. Let's face it, they're 4-16 on the year. They've lost 10 of their last 11. And sadly, if you throw out wins against non-Division I teams, Maine has 1 victory. They beat New Hampshire at home. They beat New Hampshire at home last week, 71-64. That's their lone win over a Division I team. They're horrible offensively. They're horrible defensively. The weather sucks. They don't have any players. It's kind of like, the Jim Mora, we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't complete a pass. In this case, it's we couldn't inbound the ball. We couldn't make a shot. Every time they went down the floor, they scored points. It sucked. We stunk. That sums up Richard Barron and Maine in a nutshell.
Well, of all the Loyolas out there, it seems like the Loyola of Chicago seems to be the one that's doing the best.
Yeah, I look for the Ramblers to bounce back here. I know they were disappointed with the way they played against Drake, losing 77-68. They're facing an Illinois State team that doesn't know what defense is. I think they're allergic to it. We've talked about that before with Coach Dan Muller, not to be confused with Dan Mullen.
Right.
Illinois State, they come in losers of 7 of their last 9, 3 in a row, including a loss to Evansville on the road after they beat them by 38 at home. Loyola Chicago has too many offensive weapons, and they're too experienced to get tripped up in this one. Look for them to roll past Illinois State. This one's going to be an interesting one. It's in Champaign. You got a big matchup. It's going to be Cockburn and Alfonso Plummer and company from Illinois against Johnny Davis, 49-year-old senior Brad Davison in Wisconsin.
Brady college basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game, I think. That's why I'm taking Wisconsin with the points. I think Illinois should pull it out because they're at home, and Cockburn's healthy. He's out of the concussion protocols and all. But Davis will keep it close. He's been tremendous this season for Wisconsin. This will probably be a 4 or 5 point game, so take the Badgers and the points to cover. On the NBA hardwood, Dallas and Oklahoma City, the Mavericks favored by 12. I know Porzingis is not going to play tonight for Dallas. It probably doesn't matter. Tim Hardaway Jr. also out after he broke his part of his foot, the fifth metatarsal. But Gilgeous-Alexander's not playing for Oklahoma City. That takes out their best offensive weapon. The Mavs should prevail at home. Boston over Charlotte. Charlotte without Gordon Hayward again. He's reconditioning after being in the COVID protocols. Jalen McDaniels out. Kelly Oubre is probable tonight, which is a boost for them. Meanwhile, for Boston, Dennis Schroeder probable with Achilles tendinopathy. Robert Williams III also probable with a sore toe. Boston playing at home. They've won 4 out of 5. They should make it 5 out of 6. Brooklyn -4 over Sacramento. I know the Nets lost last night. If anybody watched it on TNT, Ian Eagle was on the call of that one as they lost in Phoenix. It's a much softer landing when you're facing a Sacramento team that is abysmal. They also won't have Marvin Bagley out with an ankle sprain, Terrence Davis out with an injury to his wrist, and De'Aaron Fox questionable for seemingly the 39th game in a row with a sore ankle. The Nets haven't released an injury report yet. You have to hope that Harden doesn't sit like he tends to do in the second game of back-to-backs. But either way, Brooklyn's got enough offense to get the win. On the ice, the Kings over the Red Wings. Detroit has stumbled a bit of late. The Kings play good hockey. Jonathan Quick in net for LA against Alex Nedeljkovic for Detroit. Arizona, hey, kudos to the Coyotes last night for stopping the Avalanche's 18-game home win streak, winning 3-2 in a shootout, mainly because Colorado decided to ring one off the post and then let Nazem Kadri shoot in the final round. However, now they have to go home and face the Flames, who are rested. Look for the Flames to win that one and end Arizona's win streak at 1. And Edmonton and Washington, I look for it to stay under 6.5. The last 4 meetings between these teams in the nation's capital have fallen short of the mark. Both teams are probably going to want to just, make sure they can get to the All-Star break without anybody else being hurt. That doesn't mean McDavid and Ovechkin and Draisaitl won't put points on the board. It just means that it's going to end up under 6.5. It might be a 3-2, 4-2 type of game. It'll be interesting to see which stars light the lamp in tonight's game. I'd like to see all 3 of them do it, but you never know.
It'd be interesting to see if Kuznetsov can be one of those guys. It's hard to believe the guy that good keeps flying under the radar, but he does. So I guess when you're going on a team that's got the biggest scoring star in Russian history, it's kind of hard to make a mark behind him. But Kuznetsov, made the All-Star team. He's doing pretty well. So it'll be fun. You're right. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So a lot of good stuff up there for parlays, folks. So we've got a bunch of very interesting stuff. I would think right now, if I'm going to put if I was going to do a parlay, I would take our buddies from Vermont because I like maple syrup and they're good. And probably, let's see, what would the other one be? Maybe Loyola. Maybe that would be the one.
Yeah, I mean, the Ramblers are a good team.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, if I'm going to stick to the ice, I would stick with the Islanders. And, I like the way Arizona played yesterday. They tied that game against Colorado in the last minute, 38 seconds left, then won a shootout. I don't think Scott Wedgwood's going to make 38 saves on a consistent basis.
No.
But if I had to go another, I would probably take the Cavs over the Rockets, just because we said Houston is the
That's true.
Scoring defense, and Cleveland is first. Cleveland doesn't have to score a ton to beat you because they lead the league in scoring defense.
True. Well, look, folks, we hope that any last questions before we leave. And
I think
I guess not. I think we had a very interesting and fun. The NHL. Well, there's one more day, one more set of games before the break tomorrow, and then they're off. And by the way, for those of you who are Olympic fans, the Olympics start tomorrow on the family of NBC networks. And interestingly enough, all of those games can be seen on NBC, on Peacock, on USA, on CNBC, and pretty much all kinds of different places. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the Olympic Games start tomorrow. The opening ceremonies, though, will not begin until on Friday. So there you go.
Starting the Olympics ahead of the opening ceremonies.
Actually, that's not uncommon. These summer games usually start a couple of days before, and they've actually had medals being given out before they've had the opening ceremony. So there you go. What are you gonna do, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I remember the opening in Beijing. What was it? It was. It's been a while ago, but the amazing ability for that one person to kind of fly above the arena and the stadium, and then of course there was the drums, which everybody thought was pretty cool. So, and that of course was the Olympics where Michael Phelps beat Mike Spitz and Mark Spitz and won all those different medals. So it's been very fun. It's going to be another wild and interesting Winter Games, which will be entertaining, to say the least. So we got all that coming up. So anyway, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams, and we hope to see you tomorrow.
John, we talked about Campbell. We talked about Campbell already, John. I don't know where you were. We said Campbell minus 3.5 over Presbyterian. As far as Binghamton, I like Stony Brook at home. They're giving 7 points. Binghamton's lost 2 in a row, four of their last 7. The Seawolves, they've won 4 or 5. Their only loss in that stretch was to Vermont, and everybody loses to Vermont in the America East. Gino Ford's team will get the win over Binghamton tonight.
We want everybody to stay tuned because Scott and Scott will be here for Back at the Window at 3:00. So don't forget Scott and Scott because they never forget us. So the least you can do is check them out. So tomorrow, 1:30, same place, and we're going to have some fun as it's Thursday. And then Friday, we'll have a guest. At this point in time, we haven't decided who it's going to be, but it'll be somebody I'm sure that you'll enjoy.
It'll be Mr. X.
So for Chris, I'm sorry?
I said it'll be Mr. X.
Mr. X or Miss X. We don't know yet. We don't discriminate here. All right, gang. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back with you tomorrow. Be be sure to check out all of the fun stuff in the show box below, because we got all kinds of great situations going with Caesars, with MGM, and with Bet Rivers down in Louisiana. So all that fun stuff is down in the show box below, as is the opportunity to click on and catch our podcast. So everything you need to know is in that show box down there. Hit the like button, smash subscribe button, and tomorrow, Chris King and I will be back here, and we'll talk about what's going on. One more day of on the ice before they break for the All-Stars, and then we'll have, of course, NBA, and I don't think we'll talk much about the Pro Bowl. We'll let that one go at this point. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day yourselves, and we will see you come tomorrow at 1:30 right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network.